Hello modders! In this video we are going to be creating a custom terrain and importing it into Overgrowth. We're not going to be going into the more complicated aspects of terrain creation with the detail objects and such. The focus of this tutorial is just to get you started. I am assuming that you already know how to create a mod and also have a basic knowledge of how to use the Overgrowth and the editor. So you're going to start by going in to here, and you're going to open a level that's similar to the level that you want to create. So in my case, I'm going to open the level Watchtower Build Site because this level has grass and stones and all sorts of fun stuff like that, and it's fairly similar to the level I want to create. Now I'm going to go into the editor, and I'm going to press Ctrl A and delete everything. Then I'm going to make a few more changes to make it easier to test the terrain that we're going to be seeing. So I'm going to take away any particles, don't want any fog, don't need this, don't need any custom shaders at all, nothing like that. And then I'll do that. I'm going to take away the loading image, don't need that. Perfect. And what else do we have here? That's fine, that's fine. Definitely don't need a load tip, don't need to worry about that. We're going to bring the saturation up all the way. I'm going to rotate the sky a little bit, and then now that I've done that, I can find the sun. I'm going to bring the sun up nice and tall so it's bringing some direct light onto the terrain. So now that I've made all those changes, oh, and also I'm going to go into the nav mesh and I'll uncheck this. Now I'm going to save as, and I'm going to find my mod folder, and in my case I'm going to call this level 1. By doing this, I've done a lot of the work of a terrain level ahead of time by having this generate all of this information that I need. So now I can go and exit the game, and if I go over to this level here and open it up, then you will see that it has already generated a lot of the stuff that we need. So all we have to do here is swap this out for our height map, our color map, and our weight map, and then we'll be good to go. So that's why we did that. I'm going to save this for now. You're going to want to now download a program called World Machine. And there's a free version called World Machine Basic. So you're going to want to download that. And it, instead of sculpting the terrain yourself, this program works by creating nodes and mathematically creating the terrain. But don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds. When you open up World Machine, you're probably going to see something like this. And delete all of this. So go ahead, select all of this like this, and just hit delete on the keyboard, because we want to start from scratch. If you have an older version of World Machine Basic, you may have some build options here. If you have a newer one, it may automatically build the world for you. We'll get back to that in a bit. There's something you're going to want to do right off the bat, and that is you're going to want to go into this button here, Project Settings, and you're going to want to change your build resolution. And all you want to do is hit this drop down button right here, and you're going to click Power of 2 instead of Power of 2 plus 1. And the reason for this is because Overgrowth likes height maps that are powers of 2. If you try to go anything that isn't powers of 2 and isn't perfectly square, Overgrowth is going to complain. It's not going to be happy at all. And the reason for this, to say this really short, it's basically memory. It's more efficient to have things in powers of 2 due to the way that computers work with bits. So you're going to change that to power of 2, click OK, and we're going to get started in World Machine here. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to find this Generator tab, and you're going to choose Advanced Purlin. Click on that, click here, and this will be opened up. Now let me just do that. And open this up by double-clicking on it. I like to change the style to Smooth Ridged. That provides some pretty good results. I'm going to bring the feature scale down just a little bit here to something like that. That's fine. I'm going to hit close. And if I have this selected and I hit this dice option, then it will generate different random options for me. Now, you could stop here and just be happy with randomly generating, clicking this button until you find a terrain shape that you like. But don't worry, I know a lot of people are going to have very specific terrain shapes in mind, and so we are going to get into how to shape it yourself. Not perfectly. You can't perfectly shape a terrain in this method, but you can kind of guide it. So to do that, you're going to go into this generator tab again, and you're going to find this option. It's the shapes option. In older versions of World Machine, this will be called the layout generator. Once you've dragged this in, or once you've brought this into the world and click to place it down, double click on this to open it up. It's going to bring you to this option right here. And then from here, you can use these little path things to control the shape of your world. So I could, for example, create like a river shape here, or maybe I could like make a mountain over here, or something along those lines. But I think I'm going to create a circular shaped valley instead. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to right click to get out of this add mode. And then I'm going to click on it and I'm going to say invert output. And I'll drag that around a little bit. I can create a more natural feeling by checking break up shapes. And then I could just tweak that until I have it the way I like it. I'm actually, to make this, the effect of this pretty obvious, I'm going to make this not very intense at all. And then to get back to the screen we were on before, I'm going to click on this button here for device work view. These are different views that you can look at. And now we have this shapes area. Now, if I drag from here onto the shaping guide tab, now you'll notice that we have this valley shape inside our terrain. And if I open up the terrain right now, you'll see this is a very video gamey terrain. This is very clearly not something you would find on Earth, maybe on an alien planet, I doubt it. So we need to make this terrain a little bit more realistic. To do that, we're going to use one more option here. And believe it or not, this is going to be the last thing to control the shape of our terrain. You're just going to go into natural here, into this tab, and you're going to pick the erosion option. Drag that in, and you're going to drag from here, oh, there we go, onto here. And then double click on it and tweak the settings to match what you like. I'm going to bring it up a little bit, I think, here, and we'll just play around with the rock hardness a bit. And then I'm going to go into the preview option here, 3D view. And now this is a much more natural looking terrain. It's still not perfect, and if this weren't a tutorial video, I'd be doing a lot more to make this the way I wanted it. But for our purposes, I'm happy with this. So that's it for the terrain. That's the shape it's going to be for the rest of this tutorial. However, this is just a shape at the moment. We need to give it a texture and something called a weight map. And so there's actually a macro for this. I think this should be across all versions of World Machine. So if you click this macros option up at the top here, and then you go to texturing and you choose basic splat map, this is going to have all the information you need. So I'm going to drop this down here. Then I'm going to drag from here into here. And that's going to plug in the height field. And then I'm going to plug in the flow mask into the erosion input. Okay? And we're going to want to see the results of this. This defaults to showing us the weight map bit, but we're going to want to see what the texture looks like. So I'm going to go over to this output tab, and I'm going to pick this scene view. It's right at the end in this version of World Machine. And I'll click this down. And I'm going to drag from here, because this is the shape of our height field, into here. And then I'm going to drag from here, this is our texture, and where it says visualizer, this thing at the bottom here, I'm going to drag that into scene view. And now that's going to show us what the terrain currently looks like. And if I open that up in the scene view, you see a little bit better. This is what the terrain will currently look like. Now, I don't know about you, but I find this a little bit ugly. So I'm going to go back here. Now, as I make some changes here, I'm going to want to see what they look like. But if you'll notice if I click on this, it's just defaulting to this preview. So to fix that, I'm going to click on Scene View, and I'm going to press F to lock the preview to that node right there. Now I want to double click on this. Scene View will stay open. And I'm going to tweak these colors a little. So sand, it's a little weird the way they have it here. Sand is obviously more like grass. But you can tweak this to make it work as sand. But I'm going to stick with what they have, and I'm going to keep it grass. Now, when you're creating actual terrains, you're going to find that more muted colors are more realistic. But for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm actually going to go with some very vibrant colors so you can see the differences. For the rock, we'll make this a little bit darker. For the vegetation, that's obviously the actual sand. I think maybe vegetation will be snow in our case. So we're going to make that very white. And then the erosion can be, oh, I don't know, we'll go a little bit darker again, and maybe this sort of brownish color. And so you see it's become a lot more of a snowy place now, but maybe if we had a height cutoff here, then suddenly you get this grass at the bottom. So that's looking pretty good. And if I add a slope cutoff, then it's going to be a lot sharper in there. And you're just going to get the snow at the very top. That's looking pretty good. And I think I'll keep the contrast pretty strong. Now if I increase this erosion layer strength, we'll also have these nice lines running through. I don't like the color there. I think I'm going to make it a little bit more vibrant. Actually, for now, let me make it red just so you can see how those lines are coming through. But now let's go with something more like that. That's looking good. All right. Now these are very vibrant colors. In a real terrain, this may look unrealistic, but it's great for a demonstration. So now I'm going to click on this. I'm going to press F to unlock this. And then I'm going to go into my scene view, and we'll see what that looks like. And I'm liking the look of that. That's pretty solid. That's a decent looking terrain there. At the moment, that's all it is just a decent looking terrain. We don't actually have the files yet that make it work in Overgrowth. So now we're going to generate those files. So first we want to create the height map. We're going to go over what the height map is in a bit here. But for now, just click on this. Bring it into the scene, click here, drag it over to here, and that's going to be our height field. Now if you go over up to where bitmap output is, it's this colorful icon right here, and you drag that in, and you click, and then I'd just like to do Control-C, and then Control-V to paste another one. This is going to be our two bitmap outputs. Now I'm going to take the visualizer, I'm going to drag that down to here, and that's our texture. Then I'm going to take this top tab here, which is the splat map RGB, and I'm going to drag that over to here, and that's going to be our weight map. Now what a weight map is it's a code for what textures are going to go where. The color map is just going to tell the game what color each part of your terrain is going to be. So you could make it, for example, so you have purple grass, but you can only put you can only put 4 terrain textures on a terrain, and this is going to tell you which one. So wherever there's red, it's going to put texture 1, wherever there's blue, texture 2, wherever there's green, texture 3, and wherever there's black or darker colors, it's going to blend in a bit of texture 4. So that's how Overgrowth determines how to texture your terrain. So now we want before I forget, we want to put a flipper in here. So Overgrowth's engine is really, really weird sometimes, and it took me a while when I was working on terrain to figure this out, and it drove me absolutely nuts. But for some reason, when you create the texture and image files for your terrain, excluding the height map, you need to flip them upside down for them to be portrayed correctly on the terrain. I don't know why this is. Go blame the devs. Make fun of them. Feel free. It's a very weird option to do, but it is what it is. So you can change this in an image editor, but I find it's a much better idea to just go in and change this in World Machine itself. So if you go to this filter tab right here, there's this option called the flipper. So I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to drag, and I'm going to go over one of these little lines here until a diamond shape appears. Then I'm going to click, and it's going to insert that in the middle. I'm going to double click on that to open it up, and I'm going to check flip vertically, and you'll see that's now flipped vertically. Now I'm going to do Control C and Control V and paste it over here. And this should also be now, let's just double check, should also be flipping vertically. So now it's going to just flip those images when it exports them to deal with Overgrowth's weirdness. Now we want to tell World Machine where we want those images to go. So when I double click on Height Output and I click on Set, then I'm going to find my mod folder, and I'm going to go into Textures, and I'm going to choose Height Map, and I'm going to make sure I save it as a PNG file right here, Portable Network Graphic. You don't want to save it as anything else, or you're not going to have a height map. I'll hit Save, and I'm going to hit Close for now, but we're going to come back to that. I'll open this up, and this is our weight map. I'm going to specify the output file by clicking on that. I'm going to go over here, and once again open Textures, and I'm going to call this one weightmap.png. I'll hit Enter. And finally, I'll tell it where I want the color map. So I'm going to do the same thing. Click on that. Open this up. Go to the mod file. And I'll click on, or I'll call it colormap.png. Press Enter to save. And in older versions of World Machine, and the version I'm currently using, you have to properly build it. So right now, if I go into Scene View, you will see that it's kind of blurry and low resolution. So if I build this by clicking on this green button, then it's going to do all this fancy stuff, and it's basically going to generate the proper resolution files for this thing. So if I hit OK now, you'll notice everything's much nicer now. It's a lot better. So I'm going to go back here now, and now that I've built the world, I should be able to write everything to the disk. So I'm going to click on this button to write to disk. This message pops up saying files written successfully. If you have a slower computer and the message hasn't popped up yet, don't touch anything. Let World Machine do its thing, and it will get it done. If you start trying to do other stuff in the meantime, you're just going to be slowing down the computer. So I'm going to write this one to disk as well by clicking on that. I'm going to go down. I'm going to write this one to disk. Okay, now if we've done everything correctly, let me just double check. Yeah, I did the power of 2 thing right at the beginning. If we've done everything correctly, this is all you have to do in World Machine. But we'll leave it open just to make sure. Unless you have a slow computer, in which case it might be faster to close this down. So now remember that level file we generated? Well, it's time to go back to that. I'm going to open it up. And just before we open it, let's just double check here. But if you open up the textures file in your mod, there should be the 3 items here. And you know what? I'm actually just going to quickly go over the height map. So what this is it's a code for Overgrowth that tells Overgrowth how high each part of the train should be. So wherever it's lighter, Overgrowth's going to make the train taller. Wherever it's darker, it's going to be lower. So higher and lower. And then what Overgrowth's going to do is it's going to take all of these different height points, it's going to turn them into a model, and then behind the scenes it's going to do this really awesome code that's going to make that model a lot more optimized. And that will lead to a few problems, which we'll go over once we open up the terrain, but I'll tell you how to fix them. So we have our files here. We know they're correctly named and everything, and they're the right type. So color map, height map, weight map, that's all good. So now we can open up that level, and all we're going to be doing here is we're going to be redirecting all of this stuff to our new terrain images. So I'm going to say this is under textures, Phase-in terrain tutorial, I think I called this. And this one's going to be the height map. And I'm just going to copy all this. And I will paste it under here. And here. And for this one, I just have to change an H to a W. And over here, I'm going to change this to color map. I think I just messed up a little here. Let me add that back in. All right, so now I've just basically redirected the height map, the color map, and the weight map to the files we just created. These detail maps, don't worry about them for now. They may look a little bit weird on your terrain, but if this terrain works out for you, you can go in later and you can learn a bit more about detail maps and how they work and detail your terrain a little bit better. We're not going to get into that in this tutorial. So now that I've added all these, I'm just going to save this. And let me just make sure there's no load option here. Oh, come on. Nothing there. There shouldn't be any description. There shouldn't be any loading screen. But sometimes Overgrowth can be a little bit weird about that. I'm going to save that. Okay. So now when you go into Overgrowth again, you should, if everything's been done correctly, have your new terrain. And this is kind of like the oh my goodness moment when all of the work that you've just done is going to pay off. And this is going to look amazing if you've done everything right. So I'm going to click play. And I'm going to open up this level. And now instead of that watchtower terrain that we originally saved it as, this terrain should now have the new stuff. And so it's going to load. I don't know why it still has the image there, but behind the scenes, this is going to take a little while because behind the scenes what's happening is that Overgrowth is doing that thing I told you about. It's taking that height map and it's taking all those height values and it's converting them to create this really cool optimized object. That was an error sound. I did not want to hear an error sound, but that's fine. Phase enlarge fire. That's a weird bug. I'm going to ignore that. I don't think that's related to what we're doing here. Okay, here we go. We're going to start everything off with falling to our death. Retry, phase enlarge fire. That's a weird bug. I'm not sure why that's happening, but I'm not going to worry about it for now. Select everything, delete. Okay, so this is the custom terrain. Obviously, it's really, really bright. You know what? We'll make that just a little less intense and bring it over like that. There we go. So now you can see how it looks. But it's that easy. And as long as you've done all the steps correctly, you won't have any texture problems. You shouldn't have any problems about Overgrowth complaining about powers of 2 or anything like that. If you get some of those weird errors, just look back through the video and try to figure out what went wrong. You are going to notice a few things, though. We had a pretty rough terrain, and if you come down here, you'll see these really, really sharp edges. I'll go over here. So the reason for this is because of that optimizing thing I told you about, where it's taking this object and it's optimizing it so that it's going to run really, really well. The problem with that is that when you have a terrain object that has these really, really, really detailed parts of the terrain like this, then it's going to make those really sharp and ugly looking. There's a few ways to fix this. One way, which I'm not going to go into in this tutorial, I'm actually not going to go into any of these ways in this tutorial, but one way would be to create a custom object for your terrain where you tell it, I don't want you to create your own object. I want you to reference my object, and then you'll get the nice, smooth things that you want. Another way would be when you're creating your terrain in World Machine, you could just apply a node that smooths everything over a little bit, and then you're much less likely to get these things. Or if your terrain has been pretty well created, but you just have a few of them, like over here, for example, let's say you just had something like this, then you would go in and you would just, you could put a rock over it or something like that to just hide it. But here you go. That is a custom terrain. Now, you will notice something interesting, which is that the grass is actually gravel. So that's a problem, and I will show you how to fix that. So the issue here is that we are coding this with a weight map. And the way that weight map is, let's go back and out of here for a moment, is it's taking red as slot 1, and I think green is slot 2, blue is slot 3, and black is slot 4. And so the order that you put these, I guess I lied. We are going to do detail maps. We're not going to do detail objects. The order that you put these detail maps in is actually going to be following that order. So red, green, blue, and black, I think, should be the correct order. So right now it's using chipped rock as red and rubble rocks as green. And I think the way that we did our weight map, let's just double check here. Let's have a peek at the weight map. So obviously we want green to be grass, so that would be the second slot. We wanted red to be snow, and we wanted blue to be rock. And then black, we can figure out black and later, or you can figure out black later. But all I'm going to do in this case is I'm just going to fix the green one to show you how that fixes it. So I'm just going to take this grass bit here, and I'm going to copy that and back out, and I'm just going to place it here. So now I've placed it in the green path, and this is going to be in the blue path. So if I save that now, and I hit play, then I've just placed grass in the green area of the weight map. So it should now look correct. So I'm going to open this up again. Should load a lot faster this time. And we're going to still get that very weird bug. I'm not sure what's causing that. There we go. Exit out of there. Open that up. And now the grass actually looks like grass. And from here, you can learn, there's a lot more to learn. So like I said, you can learn how to create custom objects. You can learn a little bit more about world machines, so you have more control over the stuff you create. You can learn how to create detail objects so that you can decide, oh, I want the grass to be precisely here and here. Because you notice, like, you have these rubble rocks. You probably don't want this on your terrain. This doesn't look very good. So you can make it so that you control where you want those detail objects to appear and what they look like. So that you can have grass where your grass is and rocks where your cliffs are and so on. So there's a lot more to learn about creating custom terrains, but this alone should up your terrain skills by quite a bit. So I hope you have fun with this, and I will see you guys next time.